Welcome, Sargon. Now, hold on 1 second. Let me unmute the tab so we can see you here and get everything set up. We were watching some Gamergate classics throughout the day. There's many. They weren't hard to find. We were watching Brianna Wu's interview with Frederick Brennan, an all-time classic, of course. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Pretty good. Pretty good. First off, I want to... Oh, hold on. There is Milo, I think. Okay, are you there, Milo?
Yes, I am.
All right, very cool. First off, I want to start this off by saying I reach out in private. This is old history, ancient history. Well, not too ancient, but I said some things about Sargon's unborn child, actually, that were really fucked up, and I shouldn't have said those things, but I just wanted to apologize to him publicly here. That wasn't a requirement or anything like that, but I just wanted to get that off my conscience. I have a couple kids now. I don't get to see that often, actually, but that's a different story. But I just wanted to apologize to you personally here live on the Killstream before we get started into the retrospective.
I appreciate that. Thanks a lot, Ralph.
If
I would learn it something that dark, I would have slapped the fuck out of you.
It was pretty fucked up. It was pretty fucked up. Yeah.
You had a bit of a. You just told me you two had a bit of a thing. I didn't realize it was that bloody dark.
Well, you know what? You know what it was. People on my show were doing that for a while, and I didn't participate. And then we had another showdown, me and him. And then he's like, "Well, I'm glad your YouTube channel got deleted." And then I made that horrible response that I never should have said, and so I apologize completely for that. And
don't worry about it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate you being here.
As I obviously never said anything remotely as horrible.
Of course not. Now, actually, you might not have. I don't know. It's pretty fucked. That is.
No, actually, you might not have said anything quite that bad.
You might not. At first, I thought you were bullshit, but I don't know. It was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. But
I'm trying to remember. Maybe I haven't. Maybe I have not.
Yeah, I don't know. We both have an illustrious history and saying fucked up things. But Sargon, welcome back to the Killstream. It's been quite some time. We're here with the Gamergate anniversary retrospective. What are your thoughts on what Gamergate meant to just the internet as a whole and just your experiences with it?
My experiences of it were generally quite positive. I don't regret it or anything. I think it was a good thing that it happened, and I think that there's a kind of truth when they're like, "Oh, Gamergate caused Trump, Gamergate caused Brexit, Gamergate caused this." There's a kind of truth to it because, I mean, we were all, like lots of people have been born out of that kind of anti-progressive sphere of things, and it was the first place where essentially people were like, look, we're not communists and we don't want communism, really dug their heels in, even though they didn't realize that was what this was all about, and they never got over it. I set up like a decade ago a Google alert for Gamergate, see what they'd keep saying, and every single day I get a thing. Gamergate has been mentioned in these articles, Gamergate has been mentioned in these. Every single day they still talk about it. It's still on their minds. They never got over it. It's their Vietnam. And for that alone, I'm very proud of all the work we did.
I love. I think it was the first time that that's sort of 2014-15 was a period where it was those of us who were kind of risking our futures, I guess, to do this insane thing. We gave people permission for the first time to openly find preposterous people funny, where previously, there had been this kind of stranglehold of terror. The most ridiculous and ill-qualified people in the world trying to lecture and bully everybody else about how life should be lived and what should be said and how it should be done and how you ought to treat this and how to approach these subjects. I think for the first time we gave people permission to laugh at something and at people who were ostentatiously laughable. And the effect of that is almost like incalculable. I mean, you look around, now you have the German MP who a couple of days ago got upset because she was called fat by a gab user. She is fat. I mean, she dresses like a cow. She dresses in polka dots. It's like taunting you. I'm begging you to say something. And the German government sends a letter to Andrew Torba demanding the information, IP address of the person who called her fat. And the response to that is exactly what it should be, right? And it might not have been that way if it hadn't been for Gamergate. So I think it's such an essential, critical, necessary part of our history.
There's something more to that as well. just to really hammer the point home that it's easy now in retrospect to think, well, feminism has always been laughable, Black Lives Matter has always been laughable. These things have always been completely open subjects that we were completely able to criticize. But prior to sort of 2014, 2013, 2012, 2011, it was off the table. You were an evil person if you even dare consider it.
And people forget, like, the campus rape culture and the wage gap. You and I, Carl, were on the front of that. No doubt. You and I were on the front of that for 2 or 3 years, and you don't hear about it now. No one mentions either of them. And if we hadn't comprehensively beaten them, and it's all wrapped up in Gamergate, I think, then, sorry, people come into my office a little bit. If we hadn't comprehensively beaten them, we would still be living under the yoke of these persistent, obstinate lies.
Just feminism in general, though. If you attack that, you were seen as, or even tenets of feminism. Maybe not like every single thing, right? You were seen as evil.
Given that you're a woman hater.
Yeah, right.
Why would anybody else ever say anything? Surely these women are just whatever. And everybody kind of knew there was something up with that, but nobody had kind of taken it by the horns. These enormous bulls by the horns before.
There's an interesting sort of genealogy of the resistance to feminism as well, because there were other sort of small events prior to about 2013, such as Atheism Plus, which I'm sure many people remember fondly, in which the feminists managed to rout the anti-feminist elements of the atheist community. And they were kind of relegated to a BB message board called the Slime Pit, which is a awesome little place. But they were routed out of that community. And Gamergate was the first place where there was just, and it was mass, it was widespread. People were just like, no, I am just done with your attitude, with the things you're saying, with your political opinions, just done with it. And Gamergate went on for a year, like genuine, like online trench warfare, an actual year. Now it petered out, and I just want to be clear, Gamergate eventually lost, right? The battle of attrition was won by the people who are paid every day to tell you how much they hate you. So good for them. The gaming media is still shit. Video games these days are now shit. Everything's insanely woke. What was there's Concord or something is actually quite a good Gamergate victory that's in the last week or so, where this game spent $200 million on a game, and it maxed out at about 700 concurrent players on Steam, which is atrocious. Absolutely atrocious, because it's an insanely woke game. You can Google the characters from it, and you're like, oh god, it's a massive fat blue-haired lesbian is one of the lead characters. And so, right, well, you get what you deserve. So technically we lost. All of the people who hate us still getting paid, still have their jobs, still getting hundreds of millions of dollars. Sorry, say again, Mike?
That's not really true, is it? I mean. Well,
no. Hang on.
Sony's going to have to write that off the books. That's how big of a loss it is for them.
It is.
Yeah.
The war isn't over. The battle was lost. Right, the Gamergate was like the Battle of the Bulge. Right, it's like the Eastern Front. Like it went on for a long time. That battle we lost, right? They did keep their jobs. They did get their funding. They do till this day produce bullshit. But this can't go on forever.
Nobody watches it, and look at the status they occupy now. I mean, these people are the butts of jokes now. Nobody's talking about any stuff easy, except as somebody who historically.
Let me catch y'all later on the show for a spot interview. I've been dying to meet y'all for years.
Sorry for the super chat. Go ahead. Sorry. I forgot that they pop over the top.
No, it's fine. I never know whether to stop for it or not.
No.
So these people are vastly diminished, and I think Gamergate was always a selfless, a huge risk for everybody participating. Okay, fine. The gaming, lots of video games are still heading in that direction. The people, the characters on the other side are all machine gunned to death as far as their professional reputations go. Whereas some of us have become, enhanced or at least more complex or much more successful figures in some ways. The point is that the ramifications of it, even if that particular battle ended in a stalemate or ended in unsatisfactory outcomes for everybody, and it did. Let's be honest. I mean, Socrates doesn't have any money anymore. Nobody's talking about Zoe. Nobody's talking about any of these guys anymore. And all the traffic has crashed to all their places, including all the video game blogs. And it was an enormously damaging thing for the other side, immensely so.
Okay, hang on. Let me. So I agree with you that that particular theater and those particular actors, like the Africa core of the feminist wing did badly in video games, right? You are right. So Quinn and Isaki's, they're all history and no one cares about them. But they were just one head of a hydra, and the hydra's body still squats over the video gaming industry, and extra heads have come out into, like, Sweet Baby Inc. being the sort of most recent development of feminism in video games, and the people in the studio still pay them money to have an input in the game and influence their games in the way that they want.
I think it's the contempt in which these publications are now held, the contempt in which the journalists are now held, including by the people who pay them from video game studios, because there's nothing better. There have been failures afterwards, like nobody stepped up and made a really great video game news outlet, which is very shocking to me. Very shocking to me that in the 10 years afterwards, nobody said, right, let's do this right. Let's do this right. Nobody stepped up to do that. So there have been some failures subsequently, failures afterwards. But I had a hard time nodding along to you, saying it was a lost, even just a lost battle. And like I said, the real spoils of that war were seen afterwards. I mean, there's a snowball that happens after. It's okay to laugh at this person. It's okay to laugh at that person. It's okay to say no, you're just factually wrong, and your critiques are ludicrous. And there's a snowball effect that does. I think you and I agree that it kind of indirectly leads to Trump, and indirectly leads to all these other things, absolutely necessary developments, right?
100%, yeah.
So I don't know. I just have a hard time. I bristle.
Well, let me continue to explain, because the war isn't over. That's the thing. I mean, my life is just Gamergate all day, every day now. What can we do to defeat the left? What can we do to defeat the left? Right. That's just my career at this point, and I'm dead set on winning on this. The war isn't over, and the battle for the video game industry has been lost. Now that doesn't mean that we've given up and that's it. I mean, at the moment, you are right that they are kind of like the nationalist forces in the Chinese Civil War, and we're kind of like the Maoists who inhabit the hinterlands, so they can't come out of their little castles. They can't come out of their little fortresses, because you are right. Their comment sections, their replies, horrific. And so, it's
every time they appear.
Yeah, no. So you are right about that. We do control some things, but they still control the main centers of production. We haven't taken those off of them yet.
Yeah.
So the war, as far as I'm concerned, is in progress. And I mean, there are backs and forths. So, there are some small victories on either way, but generally we have a fairly good foothold where we are. And you are right. The problem is that it kind of grew beyond Gamergate, and it turned into what is essentially international culture wars, which, to be fair, it probably was going to, as soon as someone just sat down and said, like, no, and that's the end of it. Because you can genuinely see it in Trump and Kamala Harris at the moment. Like, she is insanely woke in every single way. All of the assumptions of feminism and Black Lives Matter and all of the other intersectional assumptions just folded it. They're just the mainstream left at this point. All leftists believe all of these things to their maximum extent. And if they say, oh, it's not to the maximum extent, that's only because they don't have a fellow leftist who's like, really, you don't think that? You don't think that? And they would just continue to go along. Right. But then on the other side, we do have the vast armies of the fellowship of the shitlords, right? The people on the other side are totally Gamergate in every single way. Like, Trump is like an avatar of what the spirit of Gamergate was. It's like, no, fuck all of you people in every way, shape, or form. And so now it's a giant, like, almost mythological war that's going on. And Gamergate was definitely a part of the inception of this. So I think you are right, definitely on that one. But it's not over. That's the thing. It's not over.
Don't you see in the way that people respond, whether it's to Kamala Harris or to some, the latest, where I see so much of the language that we, I guess, invented or at least popularized 10 years ago is still the primary attack vector against the rest of the left, right? I mean, we're still having all the same arguments, we're still having all the, but the language, the means through which people are occasionally having victories against these people, it's very much framed and shaped, and has the tenor and flavor and texture of what we were doing 10 years ago, and nobody had really done prior to that. So, again, it's tough to overestimate the ramifications of that year and a half or whatever it was, because I think for the first time, I mean, I sort of said it gave people a license to laugh, which is true, but not really the most serious thing. I think we gave people a toolkit. I think we gave people a little arsenal of like prophylactics, methods to fight these people, and they continue to be successful, and they continue to work now and again, even to the present day.
Now, let me ask you both a question. How much did Gamergate have to do with people coming from the right or even moderate, right, from all over the internet to unite? I vividly remember a DM I got And this guy said, I don't give a shit about video games. I just see you guys attacking feminists and these weirdos. And I want in on that, right? Like that's literally what they said. And then you saw Trump, what happened after. I don't think we put Trump in office. Like only Trump could have done what Trump did. But the tactics and the people, the personalities who came out of that, a lot of those same people were from Gamergate.
Well, the thing, like, it's not that we put Trump in office. It's we are part of something that built in resistance to this massive ideological infrastructure of wokeness, of which feminism was one tentacle. And so it's natural that we would all find ourselves converging. But initially, Gamergate wasn't a quote-unquote right-wing movement.
No.
But a lot of people from Gamergate, and myself included, have become right-wing through exposure to left-wing philosophy. The more they made their points, the more they argued the case, the more you were like, oh my God, if this is the left, I am not just the opposite of that, I'm the furthest opposite of this, right? I want nothing to do with this, and I need this to die because this is going to destroy all of our civilization. That was my personal understanding of the left after having such long experience of it. And I know a bunch of people who are like that,
I don't know if there was anybody else who was like really explicitly right-wing, except for me. I
was left.
It was a very small number.
Yeah, when I first started.
From everyone, all over the place, all angles, all directions, for being like explicitly politically conservative. That was the major reason people were like not wanting to fully be pro Milo is that, he's right wing, he's going to bring us into disrepute. I mean, this was not a movement of right wing people. It just was not, because I had to like.
Now, was that a weakness of it? The Big Tent coalition?
No, I don't think so. Okay. I think I had to be careful, and no, but that's good, rather than just like going full tilt. I have to be careful and considerate of that kind of stuff. But no, it was very, I mean, I guess it was center right maybe, but it wasn't anywhere near where Breitbart and I were, not in the beginning, but it's created very right-wing people and just very effective center right people. Like Carl here, he's become now a major instrument on the political and cultural right in the UK. That just wouldn't have existed otherwise, right? Wouldn't have been around otherwise. He wasn't talking about this stuff 10 years ago. And so, I agree that if people didn't start off
Chevy sent $5, just wanted to show support. Kind gentlemen.
Thank you. Go ahead.
One interesting thing is that the gaming space actually wasn't political, right? The gaming space was devoted to the subject matter, and so it attracted a lot of non-political people who were basically, and there was a political compass test that went around, and like everyone's results got amalgamated into it. It was overwhelmingly center-left libertarian leaning on the political compass.
I remember that.
People who are not, who were just fairly like laissez-faire in their personal lives. They're like, okay, well, as long as you're not being a weird freak around me, I don't really care what you do. Just do it in private or whatever. Let me get on with what is a break from my daily grind, where I enjoy myself and relax. Just let me get on with it. And these fucking little shits couldn't do that, right? They couldn't do it. They couldn't just let you have it. And I swear to God, there are loads of people to this day who are still
on his
just
appearance on the pod fair.
Go ahead. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Who are still like rabid daily social media campaigners against the left. No, we're right wing now. You've made us right wing because you made us examine what we were. Right? You made us examine. Right? You're going to make identity political. You're going to make gender political. You're going to make all of human life fall into one of two categories, left wing or right wing. Well, then I'll have a look at what I actually believe. And a lot of people have gone through a lot of introspection and been like, no, okay, I feel this. I am that. I am rooted here. And you have essentially awakened a dragon that you kind of should have just let lie, but you were too arrogant and too stupid. And now you've got massive, you've got Trump looming on the horizon, and the polling for the left at the moment doesn't look good. The video game industry doesn't look good. The movie industry doesn't look good. Things aren't going the way that they would have hoped for, I think.
Let me ask you a question, Carl. Why do you think that, there seems to be a shorter cycle when it comes to the movies of them realizing that the woke stuff is not working and then retrenching, or at least releasing some movies that appeal to everybody or whatever. Hollywood basically is now kind of on the back foot, and it's more about the streaming stuff. But there seems to be like a quicker realization in TV and movies that certain things are not working. The video game industry does two things that mystify me, which is
Brianna
one.
Hyper Bimbo sent $5 on Rumble. Blimey, that's a mouthful. Someone dumb it down for me.
He's saying that they're realizing quicker that things aren't working and they just cut the project off rather than continuing on with it.
What I want to talk about, the video game industry does two things that mystify me. One is they continually launch products that are not finished or just not up to the standards that should be for the amount of money they charge and for the fact that this is a multi-billion-dollar industry, bigger than Hollywood. And two, they don't seem to learn their lesson based on because they know that they're out of step with the majority of their consumers' views and wishes and desires. And yet they still kind of cleave to the press that even they hold in contempt. And even Hollywood doesn't always do that. Even Netflix doesn't always do that. Why is in your view, why is the video game industry so stubbornly attached both to contempt for its consumers through unfinished products or substandard products and cleaving to media doesn't really matter?
Okay, well, the substandard product thing is actually really easy to answer. It's because everything can be updated live. So they could just release fixes, updates, patches, DLCs whenever they need to. Obviously, people who make movies can't do this. And so it gives the video game industry the ability to sell you a shit product and then patch it up later. And because I guess the video gaming public is like a battered housewife, you just get used to it. You just hope they don't come home drunk one night. You just make sure the kitchen's tidy. And am I wrong, Ralph? Am I wrong?
No comment. But no, you're right. Yes.
They can get away with it because eventually the thing will be fixed. And also there's always a very large modding community for anything important that comes out, for PC at least. And so that someone's going to pick up the slack somewhere, so the product will eventually become what you're expecting.
Even if you have to do it later. So extraordinary complacency married to a great attentiveness when it comes to pandering to the people who really should have no say.
It takes longer to make a video game, these big AAA games, than it does a movie usually, right? It's 10 years for Grand Theft Auto 6.
They make a lot more money than the studios. So
that's true, but they spent 10 years making Grand Theft Auto 6. They can't just cut it off.
But it's also, Ralph is right. The product does take longer to make, but it's also they just lucked into the one kind of media that can just be patched up on the fly. Right. That is just,
you can't do with comics. You can't do
with anything else, right? So they're just so lucky, and I think they're also lucky in another way, which is only the setting and frame of the game is woke. Mechanics can't really be woke. Now, you do get what's called game journalist mode, which is, of course, a game that's not challenging, but most games are in some way challenging, right? And a game that is mechanically based, that's the meat of the thing. So it's
also true that even the AAA games are tending in a direction of more like movie-like storytelling. They're prioritizing kind of textures and visuals over gameplay and mechanics.
100%. Yeah.
So in a sense, it is in fact it's not the mechanics can't change because physics is physics. It's just that's being deprioritized in favor of what you might say.
Sheppy sent $1 on Rumble. I modded Starfield to remove all POC.
In some studios, yes. Other studios, no. There is definitely a kind of slice of the market that basically wishes they were making movies and want to turn games into movies. Right. But it's very hit or miss, and there are a lot more failures than there are successes in that sort of regard.
Not everybody's a Kojima. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly, right. But the actual meat of a game, even if there are several games that I play because I like them that are woke and allow you to choose your pronouns and shit like that, and have random non-specific ethnic assortment of characters in them and things like that, and it's just without any sense made. But the gameplay itself, the actual mechanics are still good, and that's what you're actually playing the game for. So they can tack on the woke stuff if they want. And a person who is not politically engaged will be like, okay, I just want Baldur's Gate 3, even though that's an insanely woke game, head to top to bottom. I've got friends, who work for me as professional anti-woke people who are like, oh yeah, that's the best role-playing game I've played in a decade, because the actual mechanics of the thing are still really good.
$5 10 years
they've lucked out in that way as well. I don't know why, but for some reason you'd think video games have got a much lower barrier to entry when it comes to new studios as well, right? It's actually very easy to produce a video game, and if it's a good concept and it works well, then it can rocket into a major franchise. And we've seen this happen a lot in the last couple of years out of nothing. Like Helldivers 2 is a great example of a game that is kind of a bit woke, to be honest, but it's also just great. It was a very, very small game to start with. The sequels made it into a huge thing, and so this can essentially come out of nowhere. Right,
and so big games can be based on the same game engine, which is something that you can, as a game game developer, simply buy. And it can simple games for the things like the simulators. It can be as simple as just picking how things look, and then everything else basically works the same. And all of the difficult, complex physics is kind of handled by software you just sort of license, right? So
that's correct. Yeah.
Easier than people understand sometimes to make even what looks like very complicated video games.
Unity, stuff like that. Yeah.
And even like high-end graphics are not that hard to do because the tools are so advanced. Right. And so if you just spend $20 a month or whatever renting the tool, then you can produce incredibly high-quality work. And so I don't know why that's not doing more damage to wokeism in video games. You'd think it would be, but they've also got lots of very clever ways of monetizing their games, in-app purchases essentially in video games. It's very common now, and so I think
it's ruined a lot of games too, by the way. But anyway, yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, that's ruining most games as well. But it's obviously making them stacks of cash out of
yes.
people.
I did once spend I think several $1,000s on Jurassic Park Builder. I was just an iPad and a car on a really long drive. I bored out of my mind, and I just really wanted the T-Rex, and it was just nothing else for it. I didn't keep doing it. But yeah, no, I've been caught in that trap.
So I think that the fact that games can be made fairly easily, and the money-making potential, and the fact that it's not, there's a depth in video games that is missing from purely sort of receptive content. It's the interactive nature of video games kind of makes them more robust to the woke issue than traditional media. But this is all just my hypothesis.
It sounds like a lot of the stuff that's persisting is largely superficial to some of these big games. I mean, like you can choose your avatar, you can choose your pronoun, you can choose your ski, like blah blah blah. But then after that, it's kind of, there may be some elements of the story, but it's not. Would you say there are some instances in which the sort of the woke elements in games are being overstated?
No, there are loads of games that just congenitally woke. They're just woke through and through. But the thing is, a lot of games aren't so contingent on story. There's entire just genres of games where there is no story. The story is what you do with the mechanics in the game. So even if the characters choose their own pronouns or you don't really engage with any of that when you're lining up an army and shooting or running around a deathmatch and blasting your friends, right? So it doesn't really matter how woke that thing is. You could still play and have a good time.
In the same way, you have a suspension of disbelief or a suspension of disgust, about a particular thing, and you just kind of enjoy the rest of it.
Pretty much.
Now, let me ask you, what do you think Gamergate's lasting impact is on the internet? Some people have called it the 9/11 of the internet. We've basically been involved in a perpetual, and Carl said earlier, it probably would happen anyway, right? Something would have kicked it off eventually. But it's been a perpetual culture war pretty much on the internet since, I would date it to Gamergate. I'm biased, but I think that's true, right?
There's definitely, in the cultural sphere, yes. In the political sphere, obviously, there've been people like Andrew Breitbart who realized the irreconcilable nature of left-wing politics to right-wing politics, which many conservatives took a very, very long time to accept, and many still don't. The British Conservative Party still doesn't, but Trump's Republican Party seems to have essentially routed out most of the rhinos at this point. I saw apparently the other day, all of the staffers for George W. Bush are voting Kamala and endorsing Kamala. And then that's what you want to see. Yep, get them out. Get them fucking out. You know, none of Trump's guys are going to endorse Kamala or any of it. You know,
well, culture's upstream from politics is the famous saying.
The only people who have been in the Trump administration or have volunteered for Trump or have been Trump supporters or Trump campaigners or whatever, who say they're voting for left-wing parties later, do so exclusively out of personal animus toward the president. They don't do so because the ideology is wrong. They don't do so because they're not right-wing anymore. They don't do so because they think, oh, the left is right after all. They only do so because they feel Trump wronged them in some way, which is very important and a very powerful thing to notice. We won the argument. It's just that Trump is, lots of people often acting with him find him to be unpleasant or find him to be ungrateful or find him to be difficult. But nobody who's worked in a Trump administration says they're voting left wing because they now are ideologically Democrat. So that is, it's important to note.
And I just want to add to that applies to any other sphere where there's a left-right culture conflict. There are a small number of people who go over to the left, but that's only because they've had personality conflicts with someone in their own space, and the left has love bombed them and drawn them over. It's not because ideologically they've particularly changed. Now, again,
Bill Crystal type, some of these people. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't make it.
And so you can just see in their content they don't really like this, but they hated that other guy more.
And it never works out really well for you, by the way. If you're one of those people that's thinking about jumping signs and you think you're going to have this warm welcome, this soft landing as you go to the left because somebody on the right annoyed you, I can't think of a success story. I can't think of any that's ever worked out well for anybody because you will get
Ian Miles Chong.
Well, he went the other way.
Oh yeah, you're right.
He went, well, I was going to say,
you're right. Okay, you're right.
Wasn't he Hitler? He was far left, and then he
if you count the old stuff, yeah.
No, but that's to me seemed like edgelord.
That was mostly shit posting. If I'm being honest, I made a big deal about it on the RalphRetort.com, but that was mostly shit posting. If I'm being honest, yeah.
It seemed that way to me.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, people go right all the time. And are welcomed in and manage to have successful careers. But the other way is not.
Like, I mean, you can literally list them on. Like Candace Owens is one of the most high profile ones at the moment. People can't see Milo's face.
Wait,
and I'll ask.
What is the panel?
I'll let this play because it's a longer one.
Of telling the story.
Because it's a good question.
Also,
I think
why is Brianna Wu going on Growiper Twitter Spaces but not the Killstream?
Let's see.
Invited?
What is? You probably could hear that if you want me to repeat it.
Yeah, Brianna Wu.
I did invite her. If you're watching this, most of the people who are watching this will be watching this in the evening Gamergate special versus now live in the afternoon. We're going to repeat this in full later this evening during our extravaganza because obviously Carl's from the UK, so we had to accommodate the timing. But I did about an hour ago this afternoon invite John W. Flint to join. He said, "I'm sorry, I can't. I'm too busy enjoying the Milo Got Fat arc." So,
they look good.
If you want to talk about looks, girl, we can go.
So to say, put the plastic surgery down. That's all I got to say. I saw him on Temple.
Looks, like it doesn't matter how the New York Times, the Washington Post, they can dispatch the most expensive photographers in the world, and he still looks like he's been in the oven for 3 hours, on gas Mach 6, like House of Wax style. So no, unfortunately, Brianna will not be joining us on. John will not be joining us on account of being otherwise occupied. But we did offer. I invited Anita. I invited. I did. Of course I did. I invited everybody. A strange silence from the majority. Especially, one of them was slightly interested for a second, and I said, "So it's going to be on the Killstream," and then just dead.
No, it's over. It's like
just dead. I mean, most of the people on our side just said the same thing.
Not all. Dick Masterson's going to be here live 6 p.m. tomorrow. I know. Go ahead.
So
I have quite the reputation, though. That's true. Yes.
You see, Ralph is like a primordial force of the internet. He's been here before, and he will be here after. So 3,000 years in the past, 3,000 years in the future, there will always be the Killstream. And the fortunes of it will wax and wane, but it will always be here. You fucking want it. Ralph will always be here. And so I always try to remember that. Anyway, while we have you, Paul, you are now doing your Lotus Eaters, you building up into a little empire, and on the front lines of activism on the cultural side every day. What's your advice to people who are following Gamergate then and who are kind of semi forgot what it was about, but they're into it? Blah, blah, blah. What have you found to be? What do you think would be the most effective way to apply pressure to games makers, to media outlets, to continue the fight, if you like? What's the most what in 2024 are the most effective strategies to hold people's feet to the fire and so they deliver the things that the consumers actually want?
I'm probably not the best place to answer this question because I actually spend my time now focused on mainstream political discourse. So I actually don't follow the game stuff as closely as I did back then. For anyone who wants a good answer to that question, I would suggest checking out Archcast, which was Arch Warhammer's political channel, in which he covers this all the time. And so I do watch a lot of his videos talking about it because I want to keep
you don't have to speculate. You don't have to be an
expert. I want to stay informed as to what's happening, keeping on the state of things. And I've noticed that sort of wing of the culture war against the left is doing very, very well through Steam. Actually, Steam is a relatively non-partisan platform. And has some quite spicy things on it. And one of the things that is very effective, the Steam user reviews. The Steam user reviews can be like frozen and whatnot, but tend to be fairly open. And so it's become a really effective platform for regular people who themselves don't have a public presence or of any size, when there is a strong well of feeling in the community, voicing their opinions and doing a lot of damage to the self-esteem of these game developers, right?
Would you say it's a little bit like that's maybe where you could go to? When people look at the Rotten Tomatoes, kind of the
very much
versus the
very much.
Yeah. So that's where you would go now. Would be the Steam reviews to see what the real sentiment about the game is.
Oh yeah, I mean, whenever I buy a game, the first thing you do is check out the user reviews because each individual person is an actual person. It tells you how many hours they've played the game for. So if they've got 50 hours of this game, they're like, okay, I'm sick of this, blah 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 blah. You can take that as actual. I mean,
for the reviewers, don't you think? I'd quite like to see how many hours reviewers have played video games in total, and how many hours they've played of this particular game before they.
But look, I mean, it's such a useful thing, and it's hard to find more authentic input about a real thing that isn't filtered through the systematic bias and financial entrenched interests of large corporations and their media outlets, right? So it is by far the best way to find out what the true feeling towards the game is.
If someone's played 1,000 hours, I kind of want to hear what they have to say.
Well, exactly. if you want to know about that game, they're the person speaking. But you can tell the Steam reviews are really having an impact because, again, recently there have been what they call them, Steam revolts or something they're called now,
yes.
Where the player base of a particular game, when the developers, because games are constantly in development now, when the developers do something that piss everyone off, they really piss everyone off. It's got two layers. It's got the overall out of all the Steam reviews are, and the recent ones. So it could be overall mostly positive, but recently very negative.
Captain Sheppy sent
and
$1.
You realize that the developers have
I'm
done
glad
something.
Sargon and Milo appeared after our Anita game session.
Yeah, we replayed the Anita game session. That's true. I don't know if you remember that game or not.
But yeah, I would strongly recommend checking out Archcast on YouTube. Arch is a friend of mine who does great work. He's been my friend since Gamergate. That's how we met, because he was concerned about wokeness in Warhammer, and video games, and so that's his area of particular
Brianna will
interest.
Hyper sent $1 on
Warhammer made.
Can I get the nitrous today?
Totally off topic.
One of the first instances of pronouns in popular culture was Warhammer in 1986. In one of the codices, it says that the acolytes of Slanesh, because he's a hermaphroditic demon, are called Shem. They use Shem. They use the pronoun Shem.
That is 100% correct, Milo. I'm surprised you knew that. For anyone who doesn't know, that's the evil god of debauchery. So don't be the evil god gets the weird pronouns.
They had it right in the 80s.
They had it right first time.
Now
evil people get the pronouns.
Slanesh bears a striking resemblance to Brianna Wu.
I'm just saying I'm not making any of these comments.
Let me ask you something though, Sargon. I don't know how close you mentioned Sweet Baby Inc. earlier. I don't know how closely you followed it. People were calling that Gamergate 2, and we've talked about Gamergate 2.0 before. But do you think it had that level of effect? I personally don't. I think it kind of died off a little bit, but
No.
I do think it was very important, though.
I think the overall politicization of society is what prevents another Gamergate from happening, but that's okay because that means we're living in Gamergate now, right? We have the based area and the cringe area, and so Sweet Baby Inc. is just further proof that the woke types are still in the industry. They still control the cities while we control the hinterlands, and they realize that our territory is off limits for them. Basically, you know, they're all like, don't read the comments, don't look at the Steam reviews, don't go to trailers, because they know.
They don't control all the cities, though. I mean,
Well, no, not all of them, but
so
generally.
I have a slight disagreement with Andrew Toro from Gab about his idea of the parallel economy, where he says that we should build equal and equally as sophisticated and good and strong stuff, and just have our own stuff. It'll be much better, much more successful. The woke stuff will kill itself. And that's not really. I don't really want like a dog house next to the castle that used to be mine. You know, it was my grandfather's. Take that, and we did with what this one man did for us with Twitter, right? So and it's a pretty big city. In Twitter, you know, X is a pretty big city in the landscape. Steam, you're saying, is as resisted and continues to be an engine. So there aren't all the cities, and it's possible to reclaim cities. So it's worth saying that too, isn't it?
That is a great point, and I completely share the sentiment. And this is something that actually I get very annoyed at Americans over. They're like, "Oh, I don't like how woke my town or state is going. I'm going to move somewhere else." It's like, right, so you're going to let them have it, right? Okay, interesting.
Civilization. The word civilization comes from Kifis, which means a city. To be civilized means to live in a city.
It does, absolutely. Yeah.
If you simply abandon the major built metropolises of your culture, of your society, you are becoming uncivilized. You are relinquishing your civilization over to the woke maniacs, and you are accelerating its demise.
Yeah.
That is not the way. The way is to take it back, you know, no matter the odds, as crazy as the odds may currently seem. It's the only way is to wrest control of your city back. Because if you don't do that, if you instead retreat to this kind of nomadic or agrarian, agricultural idyll that so many people want to just go live on a farm and pretend New York's not happening, you become in a real way uncivilized. You know, you and you're no longer a participant. You're not a player anymore. You've taken yourself off the chessboard. You are no longer a player in the game. And that to me is like the most dangerous and wrong-headed strand of thinking in dissident right-wing politics is that we should all retreat out of the cities. That to me is suicide.
Now you mentioned Twitter.
Well, hang on.
Go ahead, and then I want to ask a question. Yeah, go ahead.
Milo's 100% correct on this, and there are strategies and tactics that we can employ in order to take them back. So the first thing you should do is try and become a member of one of these institutions. Join one of the major game studios, right? Don't necessarily be political, but act political in your decisions, and don't announce them whenever you get the opportunity. For example, if you get two CVs on your desk that are roughly approximate, do not hire the one with pronouns. And that can be a prejudice you express, because actually that's still legal discrimination. You know, that's actually still
It's entryism, is what you're describing.
Yes, 100%. And that's how they did it. They hired their own. They hired ideologically friendly people.
This is the Christian way, actually, entering into and reforming institutions from within. The continual process of adjustment and reform is the way that Christians do it, whereas other religions, the one that came before and the one that came after, in the people of the book, both prefer to blow things up. Or to destroy them. The Christian way is to refine and to reform and to gently nudge and be part of the institution as the problem, rather than throwing bombs at it from outside or subverting and destroying it from inside. So that's how the great civilizations were made. Is lots of people just pushing in silently pushing in the right direction, you know, from inside, from within the institution.
Now, let me ask.
You can always just think. You can always tell when, you know, if you're the one making a choice. Choose someone who you know is not virtue signaling about wokeness. If you're like, right, we need to hire we need to get a company to, you know, produce X for us. Okay, well then choose a company that doesn't post about Black Lives Matter or Pride on their social media. Choose a company that doesn't get involved in all of this. Again, this is all perfectly legal. You're allowed, there are no laws that say that you have to go with these people or anything like this. And it's by slow measure, as Milo was pointing out, it's slow measure of action that this will build up into...
Brianna Wuhaka Bimbo sent $1 on Rumble.
Yeah, sorry.
What do you think Gamergate revealed about the internet's power to shape and distort public discourse? Was it a turning point for better or worse? Was it the West Arab Spring?
The point is, you will eventually find you're at a tipping point where the company itself that was previously woke is now so populated by people who are just not doing that and are just not interested in engaging with that, that it won't be woke anymore.
I just want to ask this real quick. I'm going to have to jump in because both of you guys are very low questions, but which is a good thing. But they, when I'm here, I get to talk all day. They came to hear you guys, not me. But I did want to ask a question. So both of you were banned from Twitter/X, and both of you were reinstated. I got banned for a very short time. I won't go into how I got reinstated right now. Yeah, but anyway. Anyway, I did get reinstated after a short little 1 month ban, but how much of an impact Gamergate couldn't have happened without Twitter, in my opinion. How much of an impact has it had in your careers and just enjoyment being back on Twitter? And I'll start with Carl, and then Milo can pick it up.
Twitter was useful, but I don't think it was that big. I think YouTube was the real thing.
Yeah,
that made gaming possible.
Hyper Bimbo sent $1 on Rumble.
Twitter was a useful resource
Gamergate
because
was a necessary
the
conflict,
enemies...
Or do you now see it as a missed opportunity for more constructive dialogue?
Just keep going.
So the Twitter was useful for the enemies to continually reveal themselves, right? They would just post all of the things that we would want to see, and then we would be able to catalog these in YouTube videos and say, well, look, this is straight from the horse's mouth. This is exactly how they are. Because at the time, their positions are so preposterous that when you say to a normal person, oh, this person literally wants to take everything you own and give it to black people for reparations, they'll be like, no, they don't. That's fucking absurd. No one wants to do that. Oh, this person literally wants to fire men at the top of companies and just replace them with unqualified women. People are like, no, they don't. No one would want that. It's like, no, they do. Look, and here's him saying it. And if we didn't have that, things would be a lot more difficult. But the real foot soldiers' work was done on YouTube for YouTube videos, and if it wasn't for YouTube, then we'd have a much smaller.
I wish I would have got in on YouTube a lot earlier. I'd have a lot more money in my bank account instead of being a blogger.
It didn't do me any good.
Yeah, they would have demonetized you. To be honest.
Well, they did eventually. Thanks, Wall Street Journal. But they got me eventually. And this is a fair question, even though it jumped over. Sorry about it jumping over the top. It's opening another window, so I can't really stop it right while you both are on air. I'll fix it for later on. But fair question, though. Do you think Gamergate was a necessary conflict, or do you see it as a missed opportunity for more constructive dialogue?
No, there was never any chance of constructive dialogue. They began from the start saying that you are an irredeemably evil person because you don't think that men are scum or white people are scum or straight people are scum. And they knew from the very word go, everything about their philosophy was a complete break from what came before. It's not, they don't want to ever go back, and the best you can hope from them is that they will shame you into silence. That's the best you can hope for. They will never give you the grace that you would expect 30 years ago from a political disagreement. You would never get anything like
Brianna will
that.
there's no $1 on
Yeah, I agree with that.
What was the real purpose? Was it about ethics
you know
or
what?
something
I
else?
want to give a little answer here, and then I want to ask
win?
Milo about what
How
he
much
thinks
of it was
about
personal?
being back
Could it
on
have been handled
X.
differently?
I
Was the
got
impact worth
involved.
the cost?
So what's the real purpose? Was it about ethics or something? I'll speak for myself. So I'm a lifelong gamer, mostly, normie type games, right? Madden, stuff like that. But I played tons of video games, like, 8 hours a day some days. And this guy is really just going crazy.
Sent $1 on Rumble.
Okay,
Did it change anything?
I'm
for the
about to
better?
be.
Or did it just fuel more division? Would you do it all again?
Would I do
Where
it
do we
all
go from
again?
here?
Yes, is the answer. But for me, the ethics in video game journalism thing was more of a.
Frosty Toad sent $3. I'm glad Jim is here.
Yeah. All right. Let's not bring him into it. I don't want to.
Didn't care about the issues.
I don't want to bring him into it, but I think it did play a small part in it for me. But what it really was for me was here's finally a chance to attack these feminist ideologues and really bring them down a peg. And there really hasn't been a united army against them. Not that the ethics part didn't matter at all, but it certainly mattered a lot less for me, at least, speaking on my own. I don't know what you think about that, Carl.
The two issues are bound up. There's always a certain level of corruption, and in the video game industry, the corruption was always non-ideological. It was the video game company gives perks, freebies, computers, money, whatever, to video game magazines to say, look, just make sure lots of people know about our game. But the game itself would have just been relatively normal. Like they're trying to make players enjoy engaging with the
Matt
game.
at the internet sent $1 on Rumble.
Yes.
Hello, Sargon. I have a deep philosophical question. If you'd permit me just 1 second of your time now before I begin, I would like to preface this by saying that me personally having been affected.
Yes, that's the owner of Kiwi Farms.
So
they're just pouring in now.
Brianna Wu Hyper Bimbo sent $1 on Rumble. What was gained? Was it all just noise? Did it help or harm?
Oh, by the way,
could it have been avoided?
Big influence on Gamergate. I was told that Josh Moon was big into Gamergate. That was news to me actually the other day, since he had absolutely nothing to do with it. But thoughts on any comments that just won't stop.
Hyper Bimbo sent $1.
Okay, look.
Was it ever really about ethics?
Okay, look.
Who truly benefited?
I don't
Did
care.
It spiral out of control?
Is this the actual Brianna Wu? Because that's what I'm starting to think.
Was it worth the fallout?
Could
it have been
it sounds like those same type of talking points, though.
Just come on, John.
Yeah, just come on the show. Like, what's stopping? Like, it's literally the same talking points. But anyway,
yeah. So
go ahead.
Getting back to it, so there was obviously corruption in the video game industry, but it was just to sell you games, and the companies that were doing it probably had lots of money.
$3 isn't
so it was all very
this discussion is
not
awesome.
Important. The reason that Gamergate's corruption, and it was corruption, but again, it just seems so trivial in hindsight.
Yeah.
What's it about selling video games? Yeah, it's very trivial. But the reason this became important is because this was political and ideological. This was about trying to ensure that a certain kind of worldview and behavior set was instantiated in a space where it wasn't appropriate, wasn't desired, and was just openly hateful to almost the entire population of this social space. They literally like straight white men are the worst people on earth and we hate them all. It's like, okay, why are you going to a space that's mostly straight white men and acting this way? And then suddenly it was like, oh, and you're also all corrupt and horrible and evil and cruel and venal, vicious in every single aspect of your lives, that anyone outside of your little gang as well. Why wouldn't we just tell you to get fucked? Why wouldn't we do that? And I'm very glad that people did.
100%. Go ahead, Milo.
Remember what today is the anniversary of. 10 years today, or 10 years yesterday, is the first instance of the Gamergate hashtag ever being used. But today is really the 10-year anniversary of a series of coordinated articles that were published by the Games Press. Gamers are dead. This wasn't just we don't like. They declared their these people that they didn't like the supposed gamer identity to be deceased. And this is kind of a direct sociopathic and disturbing assault. That goes even beyond what you were just saying, Carl.
Ralph, can you mute the TTS and just have him display on
I
screen?
can try to do that, but it's
I agree with that super chat.
Yes, I know. It's annoying.
We're grateful for the super chat for Ralph. We love them. It's a good problem to have. Maybe we'll
it's not a terrible problem to have, but if you'll give me a second, I'll probably have to. Let me see if I can do this. Actually, I do that, but sometimes it doesn't actually work out correctly. Is the only problem. So then you have a situation like this where I can't. Let's see, control audio via OBS. Then I'll turn it down. Now let me make sure it's not on over here. Okay, so in theory, it should just pop on screen now. And I think it's been awesome anyway. Almost more of a madhouse situation, but yeah, it does cut people off. So my apologies to you both for that.
No, I agree with what you were saying, Carl, but it goes a step beyond that, doesn't it? They declared people dead. They were coordinated and a bit of a disturbing, sociopathic, kind of like weird and not creepy and sinister and threatening tone to take. It's like, oh, you're dead. You're actually deceased. You are no longer living. It's sort of a weird and very creepy, crazy ex-girlfriend, kind of a way of declaring war on your own audience. That let's just remember who the aggressors were. Let's remember.
Well, I mean,
The fix worked, by the
nature of
way.
the
I just
attack
wanted to
as
say
well.
that the fix did work. So anyway, go ahead.
The nature of the attack is so stereotypical of this group as well. They didn't attempt to discredit the gamers for being, I don't know, fat, lazy, slovenly. I'm representative of all of these things. No, they just said, no, we're going straight for your identity. And we're just going to assume that you're just going to roll over and take it because you're straight white men, and we've already established you're bad people, and gamers are obviously scum. So fuck you. And it was just very interesting how, like, okay, attacking someone's identity is actually usually quite a cruel thing to do. Right? It's usually something that actually is off the table. It's inappropriate. It's something that you'd be like, okay, what are you doing? You're going to really attack their entire sense of self over this, over whatever it is. And they didn't even hesitate. That was their opening salvo, as you said, is to declare these people persona non grata. They're all dead. This is their eulogy. And it was like, wow, how did that work out for you?
And I mean, what are they saying? Really, they're saying they're doing the same thing. It's almost like a caste system, right? These people are untouchables, so they shouldn't be. This is the purpose of declaring somebody dead. Is to make them ineligible or inappropriate for any kind of platform status, to express opinions, to have any kind of say whatsoever. This is like dark shit. This is like pagan era, kind of bad stuff going on.
There was one guy, it was Zoe Quinn's boyfriend, Alex something, who literally said, I want Gamergate to be a scarlet letter on these people. It hasn't been, interestingly, because thank God, essentially the right got its act together and was like, oh, right, okay, anyone who's against the left is our friend, basically, is at this point.
I have to say, everybody involved in Gamergate on our side, as far as I can think of, has emerged an enhanced figure versus before. And everybody on their side is gone.
Zoe Quinn hasn't tweeted in 2 years. Somebody told me that this morning.
Really?
I couldn't even believe. Yes, really. I was stunned. Of course, I haven't been checking on it, right? I don't follow. I follow. I'm kind of like Sargon, right? I check in on the gaming industry, right? But it's not my daily beat anymore, right? It's politics and drama and stuff like that. But yeah, 2 years. They haven't tweeted.
Who turned out dead, huh?
Yeah,
exactly. Dead. Not us. Not us.
But do you agree? Because Milo and I were talking before, and I wanted to have him back on. And then I said, did you know this is the 10-year anniversary this month of Gamergate? And he's like, oh, okay. Well, it has to be on that day. And we were trying to figure out the exact day. And it could have been yesterday for the hashtag officially being born. But we thought that the Gamers Are Dead attacks coordinated by the media was really the day that it kicked off.
I agree.
Okay.
It was genuinely when
too late to reorganize now. So
what I like about Gamergate as well is how naive everyone was. Because when you look back, you think, okay, what did we know about the philosophy and the agents of the philosophy when we began this? And the answer is fuck all. We assumed they would be relatively good faith. We were outraged when they were hypocrites. We couldn't believe they'd just block us without having any discussion, or that they'd dox us and expect us to be run off the internet. We didn't understand how long the philosophy, the ideology had been percolating. We didn't know where it had come from. We didn't realize that this had been brewed up by a bunch of communists who were essentially salty that the Soviet Union had fallen and the communism had failed again. Like we didn't know how old this was, how many man hours had gone into crafting this and people don't like to accept it, but a lot of these people are really intelligent. Right? I've read all of their papers. I've read all of their books. A lot of these people were very, very intelligent people and malevolent. Right? We didn't realize how obviously evil these people were. We didn't realize the kind of diabolical genius we were up against, and we just thought, okay, well, we could just persuade them otherwise, or just say no and they'll stop. We had no idea what we were up against. And so, like you were saying, Milo, like a lot of people have been honed by this experience because there's been a lot of lessons learned. I think
that's true of the rest of you. I think I knew, and that's why I'm talking about it, because it's kind of on this in other worlds, in other areas.
Yeah, but you were a political person before that,
right?
I really wasn't.
No, you were not. I was trying to sort of gently explain to people that this is not going to get better. They're not going to be nice. And so I would get slaps on the wrist when I would do things like, publish particularly aggressive reporting on Brianna Wu or on Randy. Do you remember Randy? Randy.
Oh God, yeah.
Randy. You know, and people were like, "Dude, you know, you're doing too much," blah, blah, blah. And then a year later, everybody's like, "You're absolutely right." You know, so I was trying to kind of, you know, explain this to it. You don't really accept it until you see it with your own eyes. But it was a moment when a lot of people with, I mean, you say that some of these people on the left are intelligent. I think they're mostly midwits, to be honest. The sevens who have been told.
No. What I mean is the progenitors of the ideology are very intelligent.
Oh well, maybe.
Yeah, it gets percolated down to a bunch of midwits.
Right, but the people on our side were phenomenally intelligent. I mean, there are artifacts from Gamergate that didn't exist before, and I can only assume were created as a result of it, that people don't even know about, that I use every day. I mean, there's a do you know what Mr. Archivist is? It's like a extraordinary compendium of studies demonstrating that basically every axiom of leftism is complete nonsense. And I'm pretty sure that's sprung up around these incredible libraries created by autism, you know, created by the much hierarchy. And there's now weaponry out there. There are now resources out there. There's now all kinds of things you can lean on and draw on to expel these people from your organizations, should you choose to, and to debunk and to refute them. So you know, the legacy of the movement, like we mentioned earlier, has just been extraordinary to me, like very powerful. When you go on this, I don't know how recently it was been updated, but when I was reporting like 2016, 17, 18, I was like living on this site. It's called Mr. Archivist. I'll put the link on my Twitter sometime this evening. And you just sort by, like, you know, it's the most incredibly granular catalog of sources, just exploding every myth, the kinds of things that we were, you know, addressing. And it's one of like 50 things that now exists out there that would never have otherwise.
And you know what is also very good? That's there's a kind of blending effect from Gamergate to Trump, where the same people just got sort of sucked into the same continuum of politics because it was clearly this is the only thing against.
Yes.
And I just find that the left just doesn't even argue their case anymore. Right? They don't even argue their own case. Now it's just, oh, you're a racist, oh, you're a xenophobe, oh, you're a transphobe, whatever. They don't try to persuade you. They don't try to debunk you, because we've come to the point now where the intellectual fortifications are so strong on our side. Right? They are, as you say, they are wrong on almost probably every point. I've really struggled to think of anything they're right about, to be honest. And even then, that's probably just happenstance. But yeah, there was like a real sort of honing of the right-wing movement that has flowed into the Trump movement. So lots of people lots of autists who spent a lot of time grinding just found themselves in the river of Trump as well, which I don't doubt really helped the MAGA movement, frankly.
Well, I think that the energy was harnessed. There was excitement and energy right after Gamergate that was harnessed and fed straight into the meme wars of 2016.
Oh,
right?
Yep.
A lot of veterans from both.
Well, it's like, where else are you going to go to fight these people? Like Sargon said, yeah, it's like here's the battlefield.
Versus what it's become now, I
Wow.
sorry to say, which is the kind of boomer memes on Truth Social. If you have any kind of love for life, don't go to social.
Even Trump agrees with you on that. He's been posting what looks like actually his own tweets as well. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I know. It's in his style. Yeah.
No, but the meme wars that made Trump acceptable to vote for people under 45. I mean, it was all the same people. It was all, you know, we just graduated from one thing to another, didn't we?
Well, there was no reason to not. It was because Trump was the enemy of the radical left, and the radical left.
We saw this exact same people hating both things. So we were like, well, that's where to go.
Yeah, and when Trump tweeted out that Pepe picture, it was like, okay, he's that guy. Got it. Understood. You know, standing back and standing by, sir.
I knew all the way back to. Yeah. I've never seen a thin person drinking Diet Coke. I was like, yes.
But I'll keep drinking this garbage anyway. Is the second part of this.
And then follow up, Coke's really mad with me. I'll still keep drinking that crap anyway.
Now let me ask you both. I know we don't have Sargon for too long. I think he said about an hour. I don't want to overbook. But what? And I'll start with you, Sargon, and then we'll go to Milo. What has Gamergate meant for your life personally?
It was very Barbara Walters. I love that.
Well, I mean, I've still got friends a decade on that I've made in Gamergate, so that's wonderful. Who I speak to every week, which is great. And it's obviously been instrumental to the trajectory of my online career. So I can't say that I'm not happy with taking part and how it turned out. There have been times it's very difficult. I think the blood sports era was bad for everyone involved, and I wish it hadn't happened. But it's one of those things where the thing I think a lot of people need to remember is there was no blueprint for what we were doing, right? We were learning as we went. This was brand new territory for the internet and social media. Because social media was 2006 to 2009 when it started really kicking into coming online and becoming something people used. And then by 2011, everyone's like, oh, these feminists are a bit fucking full on, aren't they? By 2013, atheism plus and an East Sarkism referendum. In 2014, it's just open revolt. Full scale, total war, all day, every day, by hundreds of thousands, millions of people against the left. It's like, so like it kind of opens that Pandora's box online, right? Mm-hmm. And you've got to love it because I enjoy the war. I'm a happy soldier against these fuckers. As long as they're still transitioning children and whatnot, I'm happy to fight them wherever I can, on the digital battlefield. So yeah, it's been a big deal, I guess, but I don't think of it in isolation and like, I don't say, this is Gamergate. As far as I'm concerned, Gamergate ended in 2015 because the social movement was just kind of, disparate at that point and didn't have a fixed goal and didn't know what its objectives ought to be. And then Trump came along. So the same people carried on because the war still had to be fought. So it was important, an important genesis. But it's a part of history now. That's really how I think.
And I want to say this, and I want Milo's answer just as bad as I wanted yours. I will say, of course, I played a key role in the blood sports era. I think we should have been arguing with leftists more, right? Fighting them more rather than fighting each other. And we kind of all your brand is just fine. Doing great. I actually would love to see this. But like we kind of all harmed each other by fighting for that year and a half when we really should have been on the same squad, and it was mostly petty personal squabbles anyway.
Again,
I'm very glad not to be part of that because that's what I saw. I saw people kind of tearing chunks out of each other.
Yeah,
it was bad.
And, it's I of all people cannot criticize for friendly fire because I'm something like that.
But it was comrades doing it to each other. Though,
I'm the ex-gay Gestapo of the right. I didn't. But the way that happened, it just seemed like everybody was getting damaged for no reason.
Yeah. Well, so there were a couple of things. There was a lack of direction in the online community. There was, certain bad actors, shall we say, who were enjoying and profiting from it. And the profiting thing was the most important part because YouTube invented Super Chat.
That's right.
And before Super Chats, everything was quite calm when it came to live streaming.
Sure.
Super Chats made internet blood sports turn into something it could be. And again, there was no blueprint for this, right? No one knew what was going to be the consequence of YouTube, social media being invented, this being invented, that being invented. There's no precedent that we could have fallen back on for this. So basically, future historians should look back on the way things have worked. So when and I don't doubt that you're going to be fighting the left in 30, 40 years' time, still, for some fucking reason, future historians should look back and go, well, look, we need to make sure that we learn the lessons that we learned firsthand.
Don't monetize debate.
I disagree with that. Now, let me ask you, Milo, how has Gamergate affected your life, both good and bad? Made you one of the most famous people in the world.
Affected by it? No, I think it's obviously been great for me professionally, but it also, if you really want to know, I
do.
The thing that gave me joy in my career, and Gamergate was the first thing I really, I guess I really kind of loved being right in the thick of it at the tip of the spear, because I think it was the first time I was really, I could say for sure, I'm not alone. It's not just me. I'm not just some weirdo that hates the left disproportionately, and is kind of like making myself a pariah among all the people I grew up with because I'm just like too much. And even British media like kind of chewed me up and spat me out. So I had to go up with this weird right-wing website called Breitbart in the US, the only place it would take me. And then suddenly I was like, no, hang on a second. There's like I have a tribe. And so for me, it was very encouraging, and it continues to be the fuel for things that I do, to know that there's a very large, sometimes silent, which doesn't matter, army of people who rely on those of us who are nutty enough to like destroy our reputations and
pour our whole lives into this bullshit.
never escape it. You could be CEO of Easy for 2 years and you're still in a live stream talking about fucking Gamergate. But I for me, it was very, it made me feel good, made me feel not alone for maybe for the first time in terms of the things that I was doing professionally. Made me feel not like a kind of, because when I was being interviewed about feminists on the BBC and on Sky in 2014 and 15, I was very much invited on to be kind of like the weirdo, kind of like wacky, crazy right winger. And as it happened, I was just better than them and I won, but that wasn't their intention when they were booking me, and so, I was kind of getting into, maybe I am like that. So no, Gamergate for me has given me like a great fuel, a great fire within me to carry on, even when it seems like it's just me, which I think it did for a lot of people.
I think so too. I can't tell you how many people message me. Of course, Carl had a big part. I'd like to say I had a little bit of a part too, and others who may or may not show up had a part as well. But I can't tell you how many people told me that you inspired them to get involved with activism, to get involved, with politics just in general on the right. I mean, people that I didn't even know, big accounts too, big accounts too, and they're like, Milo inspired me. Yeah,
dates from Gamergate for sure.
Yeah. Now,
one important lesson that Gamergate I think taught a lot of people who would have otherwise remained politically neutral is, if things are this bad inside of a trivial area of life like video games, imagine how bad they are in important places. Imagine how bad they are in the media, in the civil service, in the government, it's this bad. And the good thing about the gaming media is that we had all of their cast-offs. We had all of their useless shitheads who couldn't keep their mouths shut, but would just say the things that the professional, proper journalists or the proper people in these institutions wouldn't say publicly. But now you've got an insight into the
messy bitches. Messy bitches would be happy to tweet. Yes.
Yes, exactly. And I think a lot of people realize, okay, well, I can't just have parts of my life that are non-political, because it's easy. And I've done this for my entire adult life up until this point. It's just, I just went into the non-political side of life. And just, I don't really care about politics. It can leave me alone and I'll go along just fine. But it's Pericles' dictum really is true. You might not be interested in politics, but politics is interested in you. Yeah. And it will come to you eventually. And so you may as well go and grab the bull by the horn.
Wait until it comes to your front door. You have nowhere else to go because it's already taken over the street. It's taken over the other houses around you. It's taken over the transport system. It owns the skies. By the time it comes, hello, it's too fucking late. It's just too late. It's over. So you have to go out and you have to protect your communities and your societies, your civilization, your culture, for sure.
100%.
Now, I want to let Milo say his final thoughts. He's coming back later tonight, and then I want to get something from Sargon because I don't want to keep him too long. I know it's only about an hour.
I will be on for
stayed longer.
I'm going to be on for hours, so I volunteer my time to our esteemed.
All right, all time to Sargon, and congrats on your success. You're killing it, and thank you for giving me the chance to let you, have you back on the show. Didn't let you, but you definitely didn't have to show back up, and so that meant a lot to me. So
I appreciate that too. Thank you for doing that.
But it's because you went on the MEP tour with me, Milo.
I did. We tried to get this crazy man elected.
Thing is, Milo didn't even charge either. He was just like, I can't afford the plane ticket, so I paid for the plane ticket. He came over there for free. And I just want to be clear, Ralph didn't offer an apology for me to come on either. I had no idea I was going to get that, so I really do appreciate that, Ralph.
Well, I sent you a WhatsApp message one time. I don't know if you ever saw it, but like I actually did feel bad about what I said. I don't feel bad about too many things I said, but actually did really feel bad. It was one of those just snap, things, and I was like, man. And I've had kids since, and I understand a little bit more about life than I did at that point, I guess is what I would say about that. So
that's like, there's other people who have similar kind of nexus of drama kind of personalities, but Ralph is like the only one of them that is flashes of real humanity and sincerity and humility and remorse, and I love that about you, because a lot of people do not. So that's I'm glad you two got to do that.
I am too. I really am.
Now we should shut up and let him go.
Yes, go ahead. Promote Lotus Eaters. Say whatever you want. It was good to have the reunion, and it's your time, Sargon.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm very happy with how things worked out, even though a lot of people, primarily me, but a lot of people had to learn a lot of hard lessons and learn them quickly. Most people dealt with it fairly well. Some people didn't. And for those people, honestly, just get yourself back on your feet and just get to work, right? There's no substitute for hard work. And the internet will forgive. Actually, people aren't actually as heartless as you think. You just have to be sincere about what you're doing, and you'll find fellow people who are also sincere about what you're doing and will collaborate with you. I'm glad that it all happened, and I'm glad that everyone that I know from it is doing so well. And I'm just glad that the spirit of it is still alive. You know, the spirit of it is now just mainstream politics. And so it's nice to have been on the cutting edge of that. And I mean, to be honest with you, I don't think anyone does analysis better than the people who have been doing this long. Like, I still get normie conservatives who still don't understand the real dark heart of the left. They don't understand the vitriol, the envy that drives them. They don't understand. They still think, well, I mean, come on, we can't actually rout the left out of every institution, can we? I'm like, no, we have a moral duty to rout the left out of every institution, beginning with the schools. Like, you know, conservatives like, don't worry, we're going to outbreed the left. It's like they indoctrinate all of your children. All day, every day, they're paid to indoctrinate you. What are you talking about? You know, they don't reproduce, they recruit from you. You know, if you get in the schools, god damn, you know, so people like Chris Rufo doing amazing work, you know, like, no, go to the institutions, get the thing done. But the good thing about Gamergate is it made a lot of people who otherwise wouldn't have been paying attention to this realize they are political agents. They're in a democracy. They have to take part. And if they don't, they're going to lose everything they love. And so there's a massive counter movement to the left. And it's nice to have been a part of that, right? The genesis of that, and to continue being a part of it. And so, everyone should give themselves a big pat on the back, really, I think. Because, I mean, and again, just to go back to the beginning of the conversation, this wasn't possible in like 2012, 2013. You couldn't say the things that you're saying now so freely and with such a large audience, with so many receptive people. Like, I'm absolutely certain that the anti-feminist Gamergate videos from like 2014, 2016 genuinely opened up space in the culture to be like, yeah, no, I'm not a feminist, right? I think the feminist cringe compilations, the Sargon videos, stuff like that. Like, there's the Ben Shapiro, SJW Rex in college campuses videos. Like, this genre of entertainment opened up a massive rift between relatively normal people and the insane woke left, and has sort of corralled them back into a defensive position, which is superb. That's allowed us to exist and grow and thrive outside of their eye, outside of the horizon of their vision. And so, if it wasn't for us in the trenches being just really obstinate about it, just being like, no, fuck you, we're not going to be treated that way, then I don't think that would have happened. I think it's quite possible that we could be living in a future where the feminists are still on TV telling us how we're all bad because we're men. Like, we could still be in that. So, everyone pat yourself on the back. It took a lot of work. It took a lot of courage.
I agree. The spirit of 2014. I think you put it well there. Again, thank you for coming on, really. And Milo said he would get you on, and he did. And there was no qualification, like you said. I didn't have to say anything or anything like that. But I wanted to say that from my heart. So that's why I said
what people don't understand about me is I'm one of the great uniters. They call me,
I didn't believe him is the thing. I was like, you really got him on?
Unopoulos in Greek, it means peacemaker.
I was like, really? You got him on it? He's like, yeah, I did. I was like, okay, well.
I bring people together.
And then I told him what I wanted to say, and he put a little heart comment next to it. But I wanted to say that to you for a while. And
again, I really appreciate it, Ralph.
And I hope everything's going well on all fronts, and except for the Labor government, maybe not so well with that. Yeah. That's a whole separate conversation.
It's one of those things that's a necessary evil to get to a better place. The Conservatives had to get a phenomenal kicking, and next time, I mean, I won't go into it, but Keir Starmer is just an unelectable tyrant, and everyone can see it. Like, everyone hates him. Like, normal people I know, like who aren't political will come up to me and be like, "Oh God, I fucking hate Keir Starmer, mate," you know, because they know I deal with politics, so they'll just open with that statement. I'm like, "Yeah, well, good, glad to hear it," you know. So yeah, but again, the spirit lives on. But yeah, I'll head off, and it was nice speaking
What
to
is
you
it?
again.
100%. What is it? Churchill said, "If you're walking through hell, keep walking." I think is the Churchill quote there.
You will be able to see this interview again this evening during our extravaganza, where we will replay it for the American audience. And I'm going to disappear now as well, and we'll reappear at 8 p.m., 6 p.m., 8 p.m.
8 p.m.
8 p.m. Eastern. 8 p.m. Eastern. God bless you.
Thank you both, gentlemen.
Take care, guys.
Take it easy. All right, now. And Milo Yiannopoulos. No introduction needed for either participant.
Thank you for watching this clip by Colonel J. This is the King of Bold here. Remember to like and subscribe. Juice!